I think more.
So, hello, how are you? Well, I don't think that there's nobody watching yet. Okay, let me see.
Well,
So,
they'll be
I'm
watching the
Monica.
replay.
Yeah, they can
And I'm
watch the
Craig.
replay.
Hello.
And we're doing a Facebook Live. And the topic for today is false friends. Okay, this is a funny name, no? A false friend. Well, but let me tell you first that I'm the author of El Blog para Aprender Inglés and Blog del Inglés, and where we have lots of free material about anything under the sun, verbs, I don't know, structures, tips for learning English, everything. And then Craig has a very...
Hi.
Just continue.
Hello, everyone. My name's Craig, and I am from La Mención del Inglés, which is a website where you can find free courses to improve your English, and the address is mencioningles.com. We also have a weekly podcast that's free, and you can find that at inglespodcast.com.
Hi,
and
Gemma.
hello to people.
Hi,
hello, Gemma.
Our loyal followers. So let me.
Hello, Rafa. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Let's go. Let's start with this. I'm going to.
Drive safely, Rafa, and don't look at the screen. Look at the road.
Okay.
Rafa's driving.
It's driving. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. That's not too easy to watch the screen and to drive at the same time. Okay, now. This is my favorite one, but I am going to, because this is number one. I put this word because it starts with A, but also because it's the number one mistake with false friends.
1 second. Let's explain. Let's explain what a false friend is, because people watching may not be sure what a false friend is. It's not Monica, because Monica's a really, really good friend. A false friend in language, when you're learning a language, is a word that you see in a different language and you think, that word looks very similar to a word in my language. It must mean the same. I can use it the same. But no, if it's a false friend, it has a slightly different meaning, or maybe a very different meaning, and you cannot use it in exactly the same way. So that's a false friend when you're learning a language.
Yeah. And there are many of them.
Yes.
Okay, so let me start with actually. Okay, that's my favorite one, because everybody thinks that actually is actualmente, and it doesn't mean actualmente. And it's very difficult to remember this because it's so alike. It looks almost the same, actually, actualmente, but it means realmente. It's like really. For example, actually, I'm not working in my office. I'm working in my living room. No, whatever. Okay, this is not my office. This is my living room. Actually, he doesn't go to Madrid on the weekends. He goes to Barcelona, realmente. Okay, and not actually. We are having a Facebook Live actualmente. Like, actually, we're really having another word. Do you think there's another word for this? Like, actually,
well, it's very often used by mistake, meaning at the moment. So
at the moment,
you might say, actually, I'm speaking to you, but I don't mean at the moment I'm speaking to them. I mean de hecho. Yeah. Would you say de hecho in Spanish?
Yes.
In fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact.
Because I might meet somebody and they say, "Hey, you work as a bus driver." And I'd say, "No, actually, I'm an English teacher." De hecho. Or realmente.
De hecho. Exactly. Good. Let's go. We have many of them. We're going to try to go fast, unless we run out of time, and then we just stop in the middle of the list, because the list is quite long. There are many. So this one is for you, Craig. Argument.
Okay. Yeah, argument. So very often you can say in Spanish discusión, thinking discussion. Is that Is that the confusion, Monica? So
yes,
you'd say,
exactly.
He tenido una discusión con el vecino, and an English person might think it's a discussion where actually it's an argument.
Yeah, because the
Does that make
word
sense?
discussion, yeah, the word discussion in Spanish has a negative connotation. So, and discussion in English is just to talk.
Yeah.
When we want to say that you have like ¿cómo se dice? Una discusión, we say to have an argument. So if Craig and I have an argument, it means that we have a fight. Like I think I say to Craig, no, that was not true. And he says, yes, it's true. No, it's not true. And well, I hate you. So that's to have an argument. There's really an argument. There's not, and then there's another confusion with this word is that it's argumento. In Spanish, there's a word that's called argumento, and that is, and it means plot.
Script.
El plot, the plot. For example, in a play, in una obra de teatro, there is a plot, and that is el argumento in Spanish, sorry. But
yeah.
in English, we have argument as a noun and to argue as a verb, and that means tener una discusión. So to get angry about something, to have opposite views, and then on top to get angry, no? Because it's both things.
And the collocation with argument is to have an argument. So you can have an argument with your husband, with your wife, with your boyfriend, with your neighbor. So yesterday I had an argument with my neighbor because they were making a lot of noise. There's an informal word as well that's useful in British English, and that's row, R-O-W.
Row.
And it's very similar. So you can have an argument with your neighbor, or you can have a row with your neighbor. And as Monica said, you can use the word fight, but that's more common in American English. In British English, fight is usually more physical. You hit somebody if you have a fight. But American English do say, yeah, I had a fight with my wife or my husband. We had an argument.
Yeah. Then this one, there's a big confusion about this one. Because assist in English is to help.
Yes.
No? Assistance is assistant. And in Spanish, it sounds very similar to asistir. So, and that word really in English is, in Spanish, is attend, no? To attend a meeting, not to assist. So people say, oh, I assisted a meeting.
No.
I
tiene sentido.
No tiene sentido because it's like I help a meeting, no? That's why we say assistance, for example, for an insurance, they give you assistance. That's a noun, and this is a verb. Assistance will be the noun, and this is the verb to assist, to help. Okay, any other meaning of this word?
Well, that's why we have the word a shop assistant, because a shop assistant will help you in a shop when you want to buy something. So if you remember that connection between an assistant in a shop is someone who helps you. So just remember that to assist someone means to help them, not to attend a meeting, for example, which I think is the next word.
The next one is exactly this, what I was going to say.
Yep, to attend. You can also use the phrasal verb to go to. You can attend a class in English, or you can go to a class. The difference is attend is a little more formal, and to go to, as most phrasal verbs, is often a little more informal. So yesterday I went to a meeting, or yesterday I attended a meeting. So attend means to go to, and it's a regular verb. So attended in the past.
I would like you to explain this one, Craig, because billion for me, I'm sure this is for American English, but in British English is the same, because in Spanish?
Well, I think when you put this in the list, problem two problems actually I can think of with billion, but I don't know if it's a false friend, because the first thing is that billion in Spanish usually is in plural. You'd put an S on the end, billones. But in English, it's always singular. It doesn't matter how many billions of euros you have. You'd say 10 billion, 11 billion. When there's a number before it, it's always without an S. 2 billion euros, 10 billion euros. You never have the S. That's one difficulty. And another difficulty, in British English, a billion is a million. Whereas in American English, it's 1,000 million. So
it's
the
only
number
in
is
American
different.
English. It's only in American English.
Different.
The problem is that most numbers, because we speak about the American economy, the American corporations, all that, many times we see the word billion and we think in Spanish, un millón de millones. When they mean
1,000.
mil millones, 1,000, mil millones. So this is very confusing. But in British English, you just confirmed that it's the same. It's un millón de millones.
Yes.
The same.
Absolutely.
So it's something, and in Europe at least, we all speak the same language according to this, with these numbers. But when you read on the internet, there's a lot of information where you see the word billion, and then you get like un millón de millones. That's a lot, no?
Eduardo has an interesting comment. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, he says, hi there, but we say flight attendant, which is true. A person who helps you on an aeroplane is a flight attendant. They attend to you. So if you attend to someone, you do help them. That's a meaning that I did not think of. So thank you, Eduardo.
But you have to add to, Eduardo.
Yes.
To. Without the to is another meaning. So attend an event and attend to someone, no? That's the second. Yeah. This is true. That's why it's so it's a little bit confusing that. Okay.
Thank you, Eduardo, for pointing that out.
This is very good. Okay, I'm going to jump to career.
Career, a classic mistake. Yes, by Spanish speakers. So the mistake that many Spanish speakers make when they use the word career is that they use it to describe their studies at college or university. So carrera in Spanish does not translate directly to career. In English, your career begins after you finish studying. So you can study technology, for example, you can study software design, and then when you finish university, after your degree, you begin your career in software design. Now, you can change your career later in your work life. So you can have 2 or 3 different careers during your life, but your career begins after your studies, after you leave university.
So it's professional career. And if you want to say the university studies, you have to use studies, university studies, or degree. So my degree is on physics, for example, or law, or I don't know, economics, but not a career, not a career. Professional. Remember, always professional career. Then I don't think this is the problem. I never thought that this word was a problem. What do you think? Carpet.
Well, when I look at the word carpet, I can think of one problem, and that's the difference between moqueta, which is, I think, the translation of carpet, and alfombra, which translates in English to rug, R-U-G. So carpet. No?
But I think the problem is because
carpeta.
Exactly.
Carpeta. File or folder.
Yes. This is a file or folder. Folder is like a cardboard where you put papers, no?
Yeah.
It's a kind of thick paper where you just insert things, and that is a folder in English, not a carpet. A carpet
is on the floor.
It's on the floor. Es una alfombra o una moqueta.
And if you're curious, the difference between rug and carpet is rug is often smaller. So you'd have a rug in the bathroom, for example, or just as you open the door, maybe to wipe your feet, there's a small rug next to the door. And carpet in the UK is very, very common because of the cold weather, and it's often from one wall to the other wall, so it covers all of the floor. It's a fitted carpet, and it's all over the house, up the stairs, in the bedrooms, everywhere.
This is wall-to-wall carpet, and
yes,
this is in Spanish is moqueta. That's the moqueta. Spanish from Spain. No, sorry. Let me see what I saw. A comment here. Was it Eduardo?
Eduardo says, well, Gemma says carrera profesional.
Major in American English. Yeah, this is a kind of degree.
Yeah, that's your main subject. Your major is subject. Your main focus, your main degree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. Let me see. Okay, this is a good one because it sounds it's spelled. I don't know if it is your term, my term, because we're combining. Or conductor. A conductor is not a driver. No es un conductor. Conductor es un director de orquesta. Yes, that's the conductor. It's funny because the first time I saw a conductor, the first thing I thought was, but he doesn't do anything. He's just doing like this.
Yeah, it's a good job. Just move the baton.
Move. And then I asked a musician. I must have been like 15 or 14 years old, and I said, this was a woman that played the violin, and I said, but the conductor doesn't do anything. And he said, no. We look at him, from the corner of the eye. We are looking there, and we know when to play something and not to play because of these movements.
It's a bit like the manager in a football team. So the conductor also prepares the orchestra and arranges the orchestra and trains with the orchestra, practices and rehearses, don't they? Any musicians watching this can help us here? Isn't the conductor the person who prepares the concert? And then during the concert, so like the football manager, and then is there, but not actually playing the musical instrument, or
not actually playing the musical, but really managing everything. And that the word is for sure is a Latin word, and that's why it's called conductor. But in English, it is for music, and in Spanish, it's for driving. And that's why
there's a job. When I was growing up in the UK, there was this job which is not connected to music, and I don't know if you've ever seen a conductor, Monica, on a bus. Before they started to change the buses in the UK, the conductor was the man or woman who walked around the bus and collected the fare and gave a ticket. A bus conductor.
Remember. Yeah, I remember this.
And then they stopped it, and then the driver started to collect the money.
Yeah, they were already reducing jobs.
Yes, and that job's disappeared. It's disappeared now.
Has disappeared. It's like in the petrol station, and in the past there used to be a guy that will fill your tank, and now you have to do it yourself. They were all
self-service.
Okay, Eduardo is saying, are carpets still common in the UK? No, not anymore. This is a funny question.
When I go back to visit as well, all my friends have fitted carpet in the house.
Everywhere,
because it's so cold.
It's cold weather.
Yeah.
There's also sometimes when I visit the Netherlands, sometimes some houses have that too.
Very common.
Because of the weather. Okay, another. This is a funny one. Have you ever been constipated?
Yes, I have.
Funny. Constipated, and I
from both ends.
Yes, constipated. Constipated, it means estreñido in Spanish, but not que tienes because in Spanish we can say que tienes un catarro, estás constipado. Spanish from Spain, ¿no? Que estás constipado, but this doesn't mean that you're estreñido. So if somebody says I'm constipated, it means that he cannot go to the toilet, but not that he has a cold. Like we would
actually, doesn't it mean blocked? So your body is blocked?
Yeah, probably it's blocked. Yeah, like si estoy constipado, probably is blocked. The whole respiratory system doesn't work, but it's on the other end. Christine says, Sorry for the delay. I was studying German. Yeah, you already know too much English, Christine.
Yeah, das ist good.
Yes.
Guten Tag, Christine.
Yes. So let me see. Constipated. So is it clear? Constipated, it means estreñido in Spanish, not acatarrado. Okay, deception. That's for you. Deception. Here we have a problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Spanish problem is with deception. Deception, the verb to deceive, engañar. So deception is the noun of to deceive someone. I was deceived by the person who charged me too much money, for example. But the false friend?
No, but the problem is that in Spanish there's a word decepción. This is a deception. So and the word really is disappointed. I am disappointed. In Spanish, the word. I don't think too many people make mistakes with this word simply because deception is a C1 word. It's not a word that you're going to learn at the B1, B2 level. You learn it at a higher level. Deception or to deceive is more of a C1 level. And at this level, people already know the meanings of these words. So disappointed is decepcionado, and this is deception is engañado or engaño. Well, this is engaño, no? Nothing to do. Well, here discussion, the next one, we already talked about this.
Argument.
Discussion in English does not have a negative connotation. It's like debatir, conversar. It's not negative. About. Yeah, to talk about something. We have to discuss, for example, the topics of this class. But it's not, if you want to say that something that you have confrontation, you have to say to have an argument. I'm going to have, or I usually argue with my husband, for example, about where we want to go on holidays. No, I don't want to go there. Argument. That is discusión. And discussion is flat, not negative. Now, this one, embarrassed.
Yes, another funny one like constipado, because embarrassed is tener vergüenza in Spanish, not embarazado. Embarazada, sorry. My bad Spanish there. So, yeah, you feel embarrassed maybe if you make a mistake like I did, just saying embarazado, and I feel really embarrassed because I should know that it's embarazada because it's female. So I feel embarrassed. It's a feeling de vergüenza. Yeah. See, I'm still embarrassed. But that's the problem. So don't translate it to being pregnant, which is the English way to say embarazada.
Yeah, that I think most people know this.
Yeah,
let me see. It's quite common. This is a funny one. Fabric. Rafa just arrived, and Gemma says engaño for deception. Yeah, that's an engaño. Fabric is not fábrica. Fábrica means it's in English factory. A factory. A fabric is material. Es una tela.
Yeah.
So, for example, this fabric I'm wearing here is cotton. I like to wear cotton. That's a fabric. So I don't think it's so easy to confuse this word, but it could be that some people think that it's fabrica if they don't know too much. Yeah, tela.
Tela, right. Yeah. Rafa. That's it, Rafa. Good.
Okay, another one that is also confused is facilities.
Yes.
Craig, what happens with facilities?
I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure. 4 syllables, I can tell you, facilities. So be careful of the pronunciation. Facilities, and stress the second syllable, facilities. Well, facilities near my flat. I have a supermarket, I have a gym, I have a library. Those are the facilities in my area. When you book a hotel, It's good to check the facilities, make sure they have Wi-Fi, see if they have breakfast included. Those are the facilities in the hotel. What's the confusion with Spanish?
No, facilities is because it's confused with facilidades.
Okay.
Facilidades in Spanish means that something is easy for obtaining, but facilities I would translate it as instalaciones. Well, Rafa says suministros, but I think it's a combination of both, facilities. My company has some facilities in the south of Madrid, for example, and it means the building, all the area that is there, and maybe also the supplies, all the things that the company, resources that the company has. That is facility. So it's actually something physical. It's a building, but it's not something easy, because the word in Spanish for easy is fácil. So facilidades, you might think that this is facilidades. This word I have heard in the conversation, that some people say, see, we had some facilities, tuvimos unas facilidades, because it was not so difficult. And I said, what? No, that was not the...
It's interesting, the verb of facilities, obviously facility is a noun. To facilitate is to make something easy. So if you make that connection with things in your area that make your life easier, like shops and the supermarket and parking, etc., those are facilities in your area because they facilitate your life and make it easier. And Miriam's saying servicios.
Yeah, service. Well, facilities, as Craig explained, it could be servicios, because it's the building, it's the Wi-Fi, it's you said the supermarket, anything that is around that, for example, when you're going to book a hotel or going to rent a house or whatever. And then Christine says, same happens with the word commodity. Well, the commodity is, but commodity is a basic service, no? No, I know what it is. A commodity in English is something like a staple, like the salt, the potatoes, this is a commodity, no? Like
in
oranges.
the dictionary it says mercancía, producto.
Yeah, un producto, but it's referred to, when you say commodity, this is a commodity, it's something like very common, like salt, sugar, it's not special. It's a product that is not very special.
It also says materia prima, so economic, it's raw material in economics. Yeah.
Raw materials, yeah. Also.
Raw materials.
Okay, let's go with introduce. Nice
to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. But introduce in Spanish is introducir. it's like introducir.
Not presentar. So it's presentar. It's a better translation.
Introducir, the right translation is presentar, but introduce means to stick in, no? To stick something in something. And I have to introduce this. That's not the right word to use, introduce.
No, you could get in trouble with that word.
And this is very funny. This one is very funny. Okay, I leave it to you, because this is the 99% of the people.
Oh, yeah, that's a pronunciation problem. Before this word, though, Eduardo's saying modcon. It's C-O-N-S, Eduardo. So it's modcons, which is modern conveniences. That's a very common... Oh, there's an echo suddenly on my voice. No. Can you hear it?
No.
Strange. No. The mod cons in flat, for example, would be maybe a Wi-Fi connection, elevator, lift, special lighting, anything that makes the living accommodation more modern will be the mod cons. You buy a new car and you say, oh, my new car has all the latest mod cons, modern conveniences. Anyway,
we were talking about jam.
We're talking about jam, which is mermelada in Spanish. Don't confuse it with ham with an H, which is jamón. Is that what you were thinking of with that word, Monica?
Yeah, of course,
Jam and
because
ham?
a lot of people said that I remember I was working for a logistic company, and this was a German company, and the Spanish people invited the managers to have lunch somewhere in the restaurant, and they told me, and we offered them jam. And I said, jam for the manager?
Spanish jam, good jam.
Yeah, they said, good Spanish jam.
Jam ibérico.
Yes. And I said, what? You offer them jam? And then I realized, this was the first time that happened to me many years ago. And I thought, jam, Spanish jam, it cannot be. So I realized then that it was the way to say jamón. And every time I hear that again and again, I said, whoa, that's a problem. This is really a false friend. Really, really. Remember, jam and jelly. The other day I read that jam is made from fruit and jelly is made from juice. ¿No?
Yes.
Jam es como mermelada de frutas y jelly es gelatina. Es como made of juice. That's the difference.
And the pronunciation of jam is the same as in words like judge, for example, juez, or June, July, January. So jam is mermelada, and ham, not from
that's
the
very
throat.
Important what he's saying.
Make sure the pronunciation of ham is just from
soft.
the mouth and not from the throat.
Not from the throat. And Gemma says, atasco. Yeah, it can be used as a paper jam.
Traffic jam.
Yes, and this is true. That's true. It can be used as atasco. But in this case, I don't think you have any problems. People don't have problems with atasco. Problem is with jamón. Another very common mistake, large. You know why it's a mistake? Because people say largo.
Largo, long.
They think it's long because it looks like this word looks like largo. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not long. It's big.
Big.
That's why in the t-shirts you have small, S, medium, and large, L, grande.
And extra large.
Well, you have extra like XXL, and you have other things. But let's say the three first one is small, medium, and large. And large doesn't mean largo. It means grande, large. It's a very large room. If I say this is a very large room, I don't mean that it's long. I mean that it's just big. No, that is the problem with that word. I've seen it. And this is one for you. Library. That's a big
library. Before library, Rafa's asking, marmalade is only bitter orange jam, isn't it? That's what I understand from marmalade, Rafa. Yeah, when I grew up in the UK, my dad loved marmalade, and the only flavor I think of marmalade is bitter orange, that bitter orange. And it's like jam, but it's made with oranges. Jam is usually sweet, and marmalade made from oranges is usually a bit bitter. Correct.
And also, I think it's a typical English food, the orange.
Yeah, and a very favorite food of Paddington Bear with his marmalade sandwiches. If you've read the books of Paddington Bear, you'll know that.
Yeah,
so yeah, library.
No, let's go back to library. Sorry.
Let's go back to library. Yeah, library is confused because librería in Spanish is bookshop. It does not translate directly to library, which is biblioteca in Spanish. So that's another false friend. So library is another thing that's maybe disappearing slowly. It's a big building, usually run by the local authority or the local council, where you can go and borrow books, but you must take the books back. Whereas a bookshop, you buy the book and you can keep it. It's yours. And that is in Spanish, librería.
Right. So librería sería library is biblioteca, and bookshop is papelería. No.
Biblioteca.
No, a ver, bookshop is no. A ver, library in Spanish is I'm getting confused. Biblioteca, library where you borrow the books, no? Y librería is bookshop.
Yes.
That's it.
Is that what I said? I think maybe I got it wrong. I apologize if I got it wrong.
No, I think I didn't really follow that. Misery. Did you have misery, or did I put misery in this list?
I think that's yours, and that's
Misery.
something very negative, isn't it? If you are miserable, then you have a lot of misery.
I think the problem could be that in Spanish, misery means poverty.
Miseria?
Miseria. Poverty. It means poor. Yeah.
But poor people live in misery.
Yeah, but miseria means poverty. But it's not exactly the same, because poverty is lack of money.
Yeah.
And misery is like when you're
lack of happiness.
Lack of happiness. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's combined sometimes, but it's not exactly the same. Probably that's that. This one is very confusing because in English has a very specific use. And in Spanish, okay, and that is only, it has a sexual connotation.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I notice in the news now, years ago they used to say when you violated another person, it was a crime called rape, R-A-P-E. I don't hear the word rape very much these days in the news, but I do hear molest. He was molested as a child, or she was molested at her place of work. I'm not sure if that means physically raped, forced intercourse, or whether that's just sexual harassment, because the line I don't think is very clear at the moment.
I think it's sexual harassment from what I read from the definition, no, and the legal definition is to molest someone is like sexual harassment.
But have you noticed though in the news that they don't use the word
it's true.
rape?
They don't use the word rape. When I read American or British press, it's true. You're right.
For example, with what's his name, the American guy Weinstein, who went to prison because he raped people in his office, but that word wasn't used. It was molested. Yeah, that's interesting.
Rafa has here. Let me see. Let's go back to the marmalade, because I have to explain the uses of the orange juice here in Cornwall. I explained to my customers that we used to make marmalade. The most famous marmalade is made in Seville for the Queen in UK. Oh,
yes, because Seville oranges are world famous. They're wonderful, and that's right. Yeah, now that you mention that, Rafa, they are used to make wonderful marmalade. But is it that common in Spanish? I mean, do you eat marmalade, Rafa, down in Seville? Is it a common thing to eat for breakfast on your toast?
Let me see another question here. You can also keep a book from a library, but in that case, you're a thief. Yeah, this is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot to take it back to the library. Whoops.
Yeah, bookshop is librería in Spanish. And papelería is stationery. We did a video with this, stationery shop or stationers, remember? Long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. We made we did this video about these 3 words. Let's see what Rafa said. Let's go back to the list. We were doing molest. We can say that is molestar. Molestar is to bother, to annoy, to tease someone. There are other words for that, no? I like to bother, you, to pick on Craig sometimes. I say things to him like,
no. Nunca me molestas.
Nunca me molestas, okay. And that in Spanish doesn't have a sexual connotation, but in English, if you say molest, it has a sexual connotation. So be careful with the word.
So how would you translate molest in the sexual connotation way into Spanish? Is it violar?
I am not sure. Let's see in the dictionary. I'm going to check it because abusar sexualmente. No es violar because that would be abusar, acosar sexualmente. Okay. That would be to violar. That would be violar.
Yeah.
So that's not it. Okay. Let me see. A ver. It's not common for us, but we use the orange trees for the Muslims' influence. The smell. Because of the Muslims' influence. But we collect the fruit and we make the marmalade for the British public.
I think the smell of orange blossom is one of the best smells in the world. I love the smell of orange blossom.
But in Valencia, you also have, I don't want to have a problem with Seville, but when I went to Valencia, there were trees also.
We have oranges too, Rafa, here in Valencia. We have some good oranges here, man.
Very good. Yeah. In the street, and also I like that. When you are walking down the street, there's so many fruit trees and
but they're not good to eat. Don't eat the oranges in the street here. They're not very good. They're very sour. It's not good.
Yes, orange. Gemma says she used to eat. I did eat this orange marmalade because my husband loved it. But nowadays I cannot eat anything sugary, so I never have it. The banners. Let's go back. Then aquí notice. Notice probably is confused with
noticia.
Yes. Okay.
But so if you notice something, then you can say it catches your eye. Das cuenta de algo. It's like, I noticed that you've changed your hair, Monica, or I noticed that the weather's getting colder. He dado cuenta. And the problem where it could be a false friend is noticias, which of course is news in English. And a big mistake with news is, remember, it has an S, but it's an uncountable noun. So you need to say bad news, not a bad news. You need to say some bad news, because you need to treat news as an uncountable noun, even though there's an S on the word. So that's the problem with notice. It's not noticias. It's and there's another meaning of notice, where you have a notice on the wall. How would you say that in Spanish, Monica?
Un anuncio en la pared,
anuncio.
En una puerta, un anuncio. Han puesto ahí un anuncio, una nota. Gemma says she loves the orange marmalade. Could you explain the difference between notice and to realize? Yeah.
Good question.
Good question, Eduardo. I don't know if I can explain the difference. I leave it to Craig. It's too complicated.
Well, with
similar, I think.
Yeah, with the meaning, with the example I gave before, which in Spanish is darse cuenta, there isn't. It's more or less the same. Yeah, I noticed, I realized that, te dado cuenta. Although, as we said before, a notice when it's a noun is something that you can put on the wall. So it has that meaning as well. And realize, what's the noun? Realization means exactly that. You realize something. I came to the realization. He llegado a la realización, would you say in Spanish? He dado cuenta que?
No, me he dado cuenta que. Sí, no, me he dado cuenta que. No.
Yeah, to because come to a
we
realization.
have also realized as a false friend, because it's not realizar, but sometimes I saw it like realize, como realizar, to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and I suppose it's European English more than UK English. Realizar. I have a doubt, but before we get to realize, I am going to present another word which is quite funny. And this is preservative. And this in English means conservantes. So, for example, in the food, when you read the label of anything you buy at the supermarket, either a can or a jar with vegetables, with juice, it says conservantes. E4, it had many strange words, chemical. That's a preservative, conservante, but it doesn't mean preservativo, which is a condom. Verb in Spanish mean the word preservativo means condom. And so it's very funny because people think that preservative, you're referring to a condom. You understand condom? Maybe you're not understanding because you're not laughing. Because it's funny.
No, I'm not laughing because I'm sorry, I'm distracted by Eduardo's question because he's absolutely right. But carry on, we'll come back to Eduardo's question soon.
No, but it's funny because you might not realize that, but the preservative is a word that is a very common phosphorus because it's. Yeah,
I make that mistake also with speaking about jams and marmalades because they're conservantes, they're not preservatives, right?
And you say in Spanish, no tiene preservativo.
Yeah,
and the people start laughing.
Exactly.
People start laughing because there's nothing to do.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
But can I come back to Eduardo because he's he's absolutely right. There's something that there is a difference between realize and notice because can you put up the next banner that Eduardo says the senses when you realize something, it's something cognitive, it's something that you know that you're thinking about, whereas to notice is really just seeing or using your senses. So that's absolutely right, Eduardo. There is a small difference between noticing and realizing is more something that goes on inside your head that you're thinking about. I realized I made a mistake. I thought about it and I realized I made a mistake. But I noticed that my shirt is wet. That's using your senses to notice something.
Yeah, exactly. That is the difference. But it's funny when you speak, you don't even notice that, huh? How you're using the language.
Or you don't realize it. So you can use those. You can use both words. In that example.
You can use
that's
both.
A good example. You can use both words interchangeably.
Notice or realize, because I notice if I hear him speaking, I say I noticed that he was saying that, or I realized that he was saying that. That's true. And Rafa continues with the oranges. I know about the oranges and Valencia.
Is that really? Is that true?
Is that the reason why the fireworks so famous there, because the bitter oranges were used to make the firework. I didn't know that.
Is that a joke, Rafa, or is that true? I had no idea about that, if that's true.
No idea. Okay, let's see. I want to go ahead with pretend. Are you a pretender?
I'm a great pretender, like Elvis Presley said.
I remember this word because of the Elvis Presley music song. I'm a great pretender. So fingir, it means fingir. It doesn't mean to try, no? What is the pretender hacer algo, no? To try to do something. No, it means to pretend that you are something that you're not, right?
Yes.
That's it?
I pretended to be Father Christmas, but I'm not Father Christmas. Or I pretended, my Spanish is so good that I pretended to be a Spanish man. That's a joke.
It was not possible. Okay, so, and let me see if there are any comments about
that. So it's true, Rafa. Yeah, pólvora. So they made the gunpowder. They made the gunpowder from the orange.
Yeah. So he says it's not a joke and that he is a serious guy. Yeah, because you explain all these details to people, to tourists.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, and then I have, this one is a very good one that was added by Craig, because this is, okay, can you explain it, Craig? Propaganda.
Yeah, well, my understanding of propaganda in English is where, for example, the government try to make you think that something's true when really it isn't. So they kind of lie to you. Propaganda. The government spread propaganda to the Germans during the Second World War, so that they thought they were losing the war. So it's false information that you give to the other side, for example, or to the public to make them think something that's not true. However, in Spanish, my understanding of propaganda is just information so that you will buy something. Because outside my flat, I have a notice on the wall that says propaganda outside. So it's just advertisements for the Chinese restaurant. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly. Totally, because propaganda in Spanish means publicidad.
Publicidad.
Advertising, yeah. So it's just propaganda, it's publicidad. But this is, and English has a very, very specific meaning. It's only for one. That's why we don't say the word. In English, it's not used very much, this word, propaganda. In Spanish, it's a very common word. Here we have the word realized. Again, realized with a Z or Z is American, and realized with an S is English, British English. So the same as this is, we already talked about this. And I was just asking Craig, sometimes I read this word with the meaning of realizar, to do. In English,
to do something.
It could be, but it's, I think, not very common.
It's not common, but it could be used in that sense to realize an action, to do an action. But if it's used, it's very formal. You might find it, you might see it in a legal document, for example. Usually it's used more commonly in the meaning we gave previously, darse cuenta. Yeah.
Okay, Eduardo is saying, even if you don't speak perfect Spanish, you are more Spanish than British, aren't you? Not do you? Okay. Yes. So because he's been living for such a long time that he knows our culture very well.
I don't think of myself as any. I suppose if I think of myself as a nationality, I'd probably say I'm more British than Spanish, although I don't think of myself as being particularly British. I happen to have been born in England, but I don't think of myself as British because I've lived in different countries. So,
but when you go back to the UK, do they say to you, do you have a special accent, or do they tell you that you, I don't know, that you behave more Spanish than English? Did you ever get that comment from someone?
No, wherever I go, people tell me I behave very strangely. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Britain or in Spain. I'm just strange, so it doesn't matter.
No, they don't say that. That's not true.
When I go back to Britain, I feel very comfortable because I grew up in the UK, so I feel very comfortable there. But I don't feel particularly British. No.
I find that you're not as British as you say you are. Because one of the things yes, and the reason is because you are very used to Spanish people, Spanish culture, and you tend to be more open. Sometimes British people are more distant. They kind of put like a barrier, and I don't see that too much in you. Like, so it's more distant. Whenever I had British friends or acquaintances, I noticed that there's certain, it's like a distance, and you're not, you're very Spanish in this way because you start speaking and you start gesturing.
I know what you mean, but I think that's got more to do with the fact that I traveled a lot when I was younger, so I spent time living in different countries, and that opened me up and stopped me being so British and distant.
You see, Rafa thinks the same. And he says, on top of that, he says, you don't look Rafa. So, you see, your mood. You see, your mood. Because sometimes I'm all the time joking and doing things like peeking and all these things, and you follow along. It depends, because sometimes I met British people that do the same. I remember I met some British people that start making jokes and very openly. But many times there's this distance.
I've met Spanish people who are very reserved and very distant and very formal. So
a really mixture between British and Spanish sense of humor.
Okay. Thank you, Eduardo. I appreciate that.
Flattering. But for example, Vicky for me is not the typical English either. Vicky
Rafa said usually British people look constipated. Yes, they do. They are constipated. Yeah. They've got something up their bum.
Yeah. Okay. Then you see, you start laughing. Okay, then we have the last ones. Oh, also ready. We have exactly 6 minutes to finish. Sensitive and sensible. These two.
Oh, classic.
Classic. Okay. Sensitive does not mean sensible. Sensible is the word in Spanish. It means sensitive. I got confused too. Wait a minute.
Sensitive is sensible and sensible is sensato.
Exacto. That's
the problem is when you spell sensible in Spanish, it really looks like sensible. And that's where some of the confusion is. So you just have to remember to change them.
Sensible, sensato. Craig is a very sensible man. Sensato. But not sensitive. Maybe he is sensitive.
I always cry when I watch a movie.
So you're also sensitive.
So
but
I'm sensitive.
I mean sensible. So that is the difference. Let's see if we can review before we go. Christine has candid. False friend. Are you a candid person?
Candid. I have to check that. Candid.
Candid. I remember I was called candid.
Shy.
Es que en Spanish means
sincero, sincera.
No,
franco.
sincere, frank. But in Spanish means somebody who is naive. Una persona cándida es naive. Okay? Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, it's another false friend.
That's why it's a false friend, because if you're naive, it's not the same as yes. It's not the same as
I have an example here in the dictionary that says the interviewer was candid with me about the number of applicants.
Frank.
So that's honest, frank,
honest,
sincere.
Sincere. It doesn't mean naive. Yeah, that is the difference. Let's go and review a little bit. I'll do one. Like I start with actually es realmente, no actualmente.
Argument is discutir, discusión.
Yes, it's negative. Assist es ayudar, no asistir.
Attend is to go to somewhere, to attend a meeting, for example, to go to a meeting. And when there's a preposition to, it can mean to help. So to attend to someone. That's why we get the noun a flight attendant.
Billion in American English only is 1,000 million. And in mil millones. And in Spanish and in British English is 1 millón de millones. Okay. For you, Craig, career?
Career, yes. Career is your working life after you finish studying. So it's not carrera, it's your working life after your studies or after your degree.
A carpet is una moqueta, una alfombra, not una carpeta. Okay.
Conductor is the person who directs the orchestra.
No un conductor. Constipated means estreñido, no constipado. Okay.
Deception is the noun of the verb to deceive, which is engañar in Spanish.
And discussion is una conversación, un debate, but not negative connotation.
And the adjective embarrassed is tener vergüenza. I was embarrassed when I fell over in the street, for example.
Fabric is tela o tejido, like Gemma suggested, but not fabrica.
Facilities has nothing to do with being easy. Facilities are the things in your area, in your locale, that make that you have access to. Well, to make your life easier, actually. So there is a connection with easy. So the facilities in my area would be, for example, the swimming pool, the library, and the gym.
Introduce es presentar, not introducir.
Jam is sweet. It's food. You put it on your bread and you have a jam sandwich, for example. It's mermelada, not ham, which is jamón.
Large is grande, no largo.
Library is where you borrow books, not buy them, because you buy books from a bookshop.
Misery is, how do you translate misery? No es miseria. Es,
Tristeza.
Tristeza. Okay, tristeza.
Molest is, in English, it's not to bother. Molestar is to bother. Molest sexually is to interfere with someone sexually. So if you have been molested, that could be a crime.
Notice is darse cuenta, notar. No es noticia.
Jam is a preservative. Preservativo is a condom. So be careful what you're shopping for. Make sure you're buying the right thing.
No, but jam is not a preservative. But jam is not a preservative.
Yes, it is.
Jam a preservative?
Yeah, because it's preserving the fruit.
Ah, okay, but also conservantes, the chemical products that you use to preserve food, no? And that is a preservative, but not the jam itself, no?
Well, yeah. You preserve fruit in jam because it doesn't go bad. You can keep it.
Pretend is fingir, no intentar.
Where are we? Propaganda is, in English, some lies that the government will tell you to get you to believe something that's not true. For example, voting for Brexit.
Realize is darse cuenta, no realizar. Generalmente, si se pone as realize, you can use as realizar, but only very formal documents. And then we have these two together, sensitive and sensible. Sensitive is sensible, and sensible is
sensato.
Sensato. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for following along, because this was very long. We were
before we go, can we just answer Rafa's question? He's asking.
Oh, okay. Yes.
How can you say carrera? I would say studies, my studies at university, or my degree. So I'm studying software design, or I'm doing a degree in software design.
I'm sorry, because I lost my connection here. Okay.
I will say hello to Coco. Thank you, Eduardo. When I see Coco, I will say hello.
Okay, thank you very much, Gemma. So such a loyal follower.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Christine, Rafa, Arturo, Eduardo. Thanks to everybody for coming. And remember, Blog del Inglés, Blog para Aprender Inglés, lots of material, Skype classes if you want, and English podcast.
If you want to listen to a podcast about false friends, go to inglespodcast.com/64. Episode 64, we also spoke about false friends.
I could put the link here. I could put the link here if you give it
doesn't
to
matter.
me.
inglespodcast.com/64, or go to mentioningles.com to study English for free.
Podcast.com/64, you said.
64, yeah.
False friends.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for today. And
have a good week.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
See you next time. Bye-bye.